What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to JayCity. So this is a little bit of a different type of video than what I usually do. So if you're not really into tech review, then click away. But anyways, personally, I'm a really big fan of technology and I've really wanted to make this video for a while now. So over the last couple of weeks, I've collected footage and put these phones through many different extreme scenarios. So without further ado, this is the ultimate camera test between the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 10. I hope you enjoy it. So the first test I'm going to put these phones through is going to be a 4K 30 camera test. So both phones, the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 10, are both running at 4K at 30 frames per second. Over here you see I'm walking around. I was at like an art show and you can see the colors and you can see the autofocus because I'm going to walk around, plus the stabilization. And telling from the video, I can see that the colors on the iPhone 10 do pop a little bit more. So on the left we have the iPhone 7 Plus and on the right we have the iPhone 10. And to me, the video looks a bit more crispier on the iPhone 10. As well as the autofocus. So over here we see this log and we're going up it. And over here I do a little bit of an autofocus test, so I'm going to quickly move to this painting over here. As you can see, the iPhone 10 autofocus is a hell of a lot quicker than the iPhone 7 Plus on the left. And if we continue on, you can see the colors are a lot richer on the iPhone 10 on the right. And you can see the textures a lot better. The colors pop more in this painting. The dark colors are a little bit more darker and richer on the iPhone 10. Okay, now this is a bit of a little band action going on here. Pretty standard. Both phones look amazing, by the way. Like, not saying that the iPhone 7 Plus is a bad shooter. It's a really amazing shooter. But just the iPhone 10 looks just a little bit better. Over here is in low light with the LED on, and you can see the background on the iPhone 10 a lot better. You can see the drum set and the colors are a little bit more richer. So the next test we're going to do is going to be 4K 30 versus 4K60 on the iPhone 10. So 4K60 is not offered on the iPhone 7 Plus. However, one of the features that I was really excited about on the iPhone 10 was the ability to shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. So I'm actually in Toronto Chinese Orchestra and I have some footage of, our band practice. And another reminder, on the right we have the iPhone 10 and on the left we have the iPhone 7 Plus, which is shooting at 30 frames per second only. You can definitely see a difference between the 4K60 video and the 4K30 video, as the 4K60 video looks a lot more smoother. And in terms of clarity, both phones look incredible. They look about the same, but in terms of smoothness, obviously the 4K60 wins. The camera pans and movements look a lot cleaner on the iPhone 10 on the right because it is 4K60. And now this last footage is of a tree and I'm doing a little bit of an autofocus test. So I'm just going back and forth between the tree and you can see the autofocus between the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 10. And clearly the iPhone 10 on the right is a lot faster than the iPhone 7 Plus on the left. Now this next test I'm going to do is going to be 1080p 60 and 4K 60 frames per second. So on the left we have the iPhone 7 Plus that's shooting at 1080p at 60 frames per second. So both phones are shooting at 60 frames per second. However, the iPhone 10's 60 frames per second looks a lot more clearer. You can see the faces a lot better and the text at the back a lot better. In terms of color, they are almost identical. However, I'm going to have to give the edge to the iPhone 10 as it is a lot more clearer. Next, we are going to zoom in both cameras to 6x zoom, which is the maximum zoom that it allows you to do. And if you use the 6x zoom feature, then you're using the telephoto lens on both cameras. On the left, we actually don't have optical image stabilization, and on the right, with the iPhone 10, there is actually optical image stabilization in the camera, so the camera physically moves inside. Now let's move on to some pictures. So over here, We have some really colorful pictures from the art show. You can see the colors are a little bit more darker and a little bit more richer on the iPhone 10. Definitely the iPhone 7 Plus doesn't lack here. It still looks incredible. And let's move on to the next picture. In this picture, I feel like the iPhone 7 Plus pulls out the win here. The blacks are a little bit deeper. So with these pictures, I just tapped on the screen right in the middle of the painting and I took the picture. But I think the iPhone 7 Plus beats it there. And in this picture, it's about the same. Both phones look really good. Both are obviously still really high-end phones. So now I'm going to compare the wide-angle lens versus the telephoto lens on both phones. So on the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 10, there are two cameras, wide-angle and telephoto lens. The wide-angle actually has a focal length of 26mm and the telephoto lens has a focal length of 56mm. So this picture you see here is using the wide-angle lens and this picture over here is using the telephoto lens. Both cameras are very good. Colors are very accurate and true to life. There isn't really a win because I think both cameras look really good. If you crop in to 400%, I still think that both phones are very fair in terms of quality. So this is going to be a draw here. Both cameras are still really high-end and really good. Now we have some low-light photography going on here. So with this first picture, clearly the iPhone 10 wins. You can see a lot more detail in the houses on the iPhone 10. iPhone 7 Plus still looks really good, but the iPhone 10 pulls out an edge here. Now this is a picture of my computer screen with a really colorful wallpaper. And if you zoom in to 400%, you can see that the colors look a little bit better on the iPhone 10. So with this picture of the night sky and the cars, I think both phones are very even here. Both phones look really good. But this picture tells a really big difference. On the left, it is a little bit darker, and on the right, it is clearly a lot more brighter. So the low light performance on the iPhone 10 is definitely a lot better than the iPhone 7. Now these last pictures are taken right after sunset. Both phones look amazing. However, the iPhone 10, wow, it just really blows my mind how much detail you can see in it. Clearly the iPhone 10 is a lot brighter, so I'm going to give the win to the iPhone 10. But the iPhone 7 Plus is still really good. Now I'm going to do an HDR test or high dynamic range test. So this picture was taken right after sunrise, and wow, the iPhone 10, the dynamic range is truly amazing. You can see the sun, plus you can see the buildings at the same time. It's clear that the houses are a lot brighter on the iPhone 10, and it just goes to show the power of the HDR mode on the iPhone 10. Now, a very underrated feature of the iPhone 10 is the flash mechanism. So there's actually a different mechanism to take the flash in the iPhone 10. It's a lot quicker, and what this does is that it apparently makes the photos better, and as you can see from this picture, the second picture, it actually doesn't overexpose the image at all. You can see the time on the iPhone 10 box and you can see the drum set. So everything is really well balanced. Now, time for a very popular feature with the iPhone's slow motion. So on the left, the iPhone 7 is only capable of recording 720p at 240 frames per second. However, on the iPhone 10, on the right, is able to record 1080p at 240 frames per second. So the slow motion looks a lot crispier on the iPhone 10 on the right. Another very cool feature of the iPhones is portrait mode. So basically, it will take your background and it's going to blur it so it looks like a professional camera, a DSLR camera with those big lenses. And this is all artificial, but as you can see, both phones look really good. I can see a little bit more detail on the iPhone 10 though. The colors just pop a little bit more. And this actually really surprised me. The iPhone 10 can do portrait modes in the dark, and the iPhone 7 Plus completely fails. I tried multiple times, but I wasn't able to get portrait mode to work on the iPhone 7 Plus on the left. Another cool thing about the iPhone 10 is the ability to change the lighting situations. So you can see there's actually studio light, natural light, contour light, there's a stage light, and there's stage light mono, and it's fun to play around with it. You can change between the different settings. This is a feature that the iPhone 7 Plus doesn't include. So you can see on my face, it's really changing the contour, it's changing the different lights, natural light, contour light. So this is a really cool feature to just play around with. It's not perfect, it's still in the beta stages, but it still works pretty well. This next test I'm going to do is the front-facing camera or the selfie camera. Alright, so this next test right here, it's a selfie camera test. I think there's a little bit more detail with the iPhone X. But with the iPhone 7, my face looks a lot more smoother. But overall, both cameras are really well. Now, moving on to some selfies. Both phones actually shoot selfies at 7 megapixels. However, the pixel structure on the iPhone 10 is a little bit different than on the iPhone 7 Plus. So, in my opinion, I think the colors and the clarity on the iPhone 10 looks a little bit better. But the thing that the iPhone 7 Plus doesn't have that the iPhone 10 does is the ability to shoot portrait modes with the selfie camera. And this is another example. It blurs the beautiful background and it gives it that look where the subject really pops out of the picture. Anyways guys, I really hope you enjoyed my iPhone 7 Plus versus iPhone 10 camera comparison test. This is not usually my style of video that I usually do, but I was just really curious to find out what the camera performances is going to compare between both phones. So if you're new to this channel, remember to click that subscribe button. And if you're a JayCityer, then like this video. And as always, I will see you in the very next video. Peace.